We're almost done with our discussion of Git distribution, but it's worth taking a few minutes to discuss two distribution-related features that are not features of Git. Instead, they are features of GitHub. But they are so essential for modern development, especially modern open source development, that it's a good idea to talk about them here very quickly, just to avoid confusion. Imagine that there is this project on GitHub that we want to contribute to. It belongs to a user named Pluralsight. We could simply clone this project and then we could modify it, but we couldn't send our contributions back to the project because we don't have a right access to Pluralsight's repository, so we cannot push to it. What we can do from the GitHub web interface is to create our own copy of the project on GitHub. This is the first feature I wanted to tell you about. It's called a fork. It's kinda like a clone, but it's a remote clone. We are cloning the project from someone else's GitHub account to our own GitHub account. So now we have a new project in the cloud, and we can clone that one on our local machine. When we do a clone, Git automatically creates a remote in our local repo pointing at origin. So just to be clear, origin is our own GitHub project, our fork, not the original project. Actually, from Git's point of view, there is no connection at all between our project and the original project that we forked from. GitHub does know that the two projects are connected, but Git doesn't. So if we want to track changes to the original project, we need to add another remote pointing at it. This is not something that Git does automatically, we have to do it ourselves. A common convention is to call this remote upstream. Now we have our local project with two remotes. We can work on it, and we can synchronize all our local changes with origin. If we commit local changes, we can just push those changes to origin. If there are changes on upstream, we can pull them into our local project, solve any conflicts, and then push them to origin. One thing that we still cannot do, however, is to push changes to upstream. For example, we might like to contribute our green commit to the original project, but we still do not have a right access to upstream. So GitHub gives us an alternative. We can send a message to the maintainers of upstream and ask them to pull our changes. This is called a pull request. Once again, pull requests are not a Git feature. They're not even a version control feature, strictly speaking. In a way, they are a social network feature. You're just sending a message to people. If those people like your changes, then GitHub makes it easy for them to do a pull and get your changes from origin. And other services similar to GitHub, like GitLab for example, have their own version of this same feature. And that's all about forks and pull requests, two of the most important tools in modern open source development.